Hello everyone, Jai Hind and welcome to the platform of StudyIQ IAS in English. My name is Bhavar Singh Surya, MX India 115th course, and I welcome you on the platform. Now when it comes to the Manipur, we have seen that there is the recent hostage crisis that was there, as well as there is the new Kuki Naga ethnic dimension that had been added to the Manipur crisis. Now we'll be going through the complete 2026 hostage crisis, then standoff, and even the highway blockades that were there, and we'll be understanding the root cause of it as well. Now, when it comes to the events that have occurred on 13th of May 2026, there were 3 Kuki Baptist church leaders and 1 civilian who had been killed and in ambush. And this ambush was in the Noni district in Kang Pokpi as well. There was the retaliation afterwards because of this killing, and there were the abductions that happened. There were more than 38 of the civilians that were abducted from the Kuki as well as the Liangmai Naga, which were taken hostages within just hours. There was the security response as well, where we have the joint central and the state operations, where the hostages, 28 to 31 of the hostages, they had been released and they had been, they had been recovered. But there are also several who remain still missing when it comes to the hostage crisis that we are seeing in the Manipur. There is also the economic warfare at the different front, where there is the Kuki NP Manipur, which have enforced a total shutdown, and the UNC have retaliated in Manipur with the blockade of National Highway 2. That is the lifeline of the complete Manipur. Now, when it comes to the Manipur, you have to understand that it is just like a bowl. Alright, there is a valley that is there, and this is just 10% of the land in the Manipur, where we have 57% of the population that comprises of majorly Meitei tribe. Alright, then we have the hills which are there, that is 90% of the land, where we have 43% of the population which comprises of the tribes, like we have Nagas and the Kuki Zo which are there. The Nagas, they are there in the region of Senapati, Ukhrul and Tamenglong, and then we have Churachandpur as well as Kangpokpi, where we have the more of the population that comprises of Kuki Zo tribes which are there. So it is very important that when it comes to the 2023 conflict, that was a conflict that was between the valley as well as hill, where we have the tribes, Meitei as well as Kuki tribes, which had, they had the confrontation and the clashes which were there on the basis of the ethnic clashes that we have seen in Manipur. But at the same time, when it comes to the 2026 angle, so we are seeing a new horizontal fault line that had been created within the hills, where the Kuki and Naga tribes, they are, they are the center. Now, over here, you have to understand that this is the ethnic fragmentation that we are seeing in Manipur, where we have the shared apartment. This apartment is shared between 3 of the tribes which are there. Like, for example, the phase 1 that we have seen in the 2023, all right, where we had the Meitei and the Kuki, they have fought over the living room. And then there was a wall that was built, and the communication, it had ceased entirely. Then this is the phase 2 that we are seeing of the ethnic fragmentation, where we have Kuki and the Naga tribes. They share the balconies and the corridors because they are living on the hill regions, and ultimately they clash over the space, keys and the pathways. And over here, right now, what we are seeing is the hostage crisis, as well as we are seeing the blockades of the national highway, where there is the common kitchen which had been locked. There is the supply lines which had been cut, and no one is safe in their own room. And that is what the condition is there when it comes to the Manipur right now. Now, there is the factional standoff, and the trigger event was the killing of the community leaders that have shattered the fragile peace in the state. Ultimately, the armed local militias, they have assumed the governance duty which had been abandoned by the law enforcement, and the civilians were abducted from the rival community. That is a tactical game of the human chess that we are talking about. And there is the one demand that was there for the exchange, and the negotiations, they have stalled on the demographic asymmetries between the both of the ethnic groups. Now, the civil society organizations, they have enforced the national highway blockades that is starving the rival populations of the essential goods which should be there in the state that is there. Now, when it comes to this blockade, you can see over here, when it comes to National Highway 2, that is the economic windpipe of the Manipur. It runs from Dimapur in Nagaland. Alright, there is a Nagaland border, and ultimately it moves towards Senapati, Kangpokpi and Imphal ultimately. So, Manipur is majorly dependent on this highway for the supply of the essential things which are there, which is the food, medicine, fuel and even oxygen. and there had been weaponizing of this complete national highway, where there is the controlling of the small road stretch which are there in the tribal territory, and it is choking the entire population downstream in the state. So this is where we have the different blockades that you will see, where we have Senapati district, where the blockade is by the Naga community. Then we have Kangpokpi district, where the blockade had been implemented by the Kuki tribes as well. All right, and ultimately the complete state is starving because of this blockade that we are seeing right now. Now, why this the episode that we are seeing in April and May, that is completely different. All right, especially when it comes to the May 2026 episodes. So there had been the expansion of the conflict, where we are seeing that ultimately what started from 2023 was a binary war between Meitei and Kuki tribes. Now this has evolved into complex multi-cornered ethnic confrontation. Now why I'm saying multi-cornered? Because over here, the Meitei tribes and the Naga tribes, they have joined hands together. All right, there is the civil society organizations, and ultimately through those civil society organizations, the Meitei as well as the Naga tribes, they have come together and they are opposing the Kuki Zo tribes. All right, there is also Meitei Naga realignment that we are talking about, that the civil society organizations, they are they are staging the joint solidarity protest in the Kanglang Tongbi that is there in Manipur. There is shared target as well when it comes to these tribes. The joint demands are to abrogate the SOO agreement that was there with the Kuki insurgent groups, and ultimately there is direct ultimatums to the governor and chief minister Y. Khemchand Singh from the unified civil society coalition between the Naga and the Meitei tribes that are there in the Manipur. Now, when it comes to Kuki, Zo and the Naga clashes, it is not something that is new. It has the historical root causes, and the historical root cause is in 1992-93, where there were more than 100 of the villages which were destroyed, and the houses, they were burned. Hundreds were killed in the land ownership conflicts between the Naga as well as Kuki tribes. All right, the Nagas, they view the hill ranges as the historical domain and their home. At the same time, the Kuki expansion had been seen by the Nagas as the encroachment of their land area. So when it comes to the Naga section, we have the NSCN-IM, which seeked the greater Nagalim. That includes the parts of the Manipur hills. At the same time, Kuki factions, they are the groups. There are the groups which are under the SOO Pact. They demand a separate administrative unit for the Kuki tribes or a union territory. There had been 1997 ceasefire that was between the NSCN-IM and the government of India. That is the cornerstone of the broader Naga peace talks which are there. Now, when it comes to the dimension of this crisis, it is not just one dimension, that is the clashes or the internal security. There are different dimensions that are applied to this complete conflict. Now, the first thing is, it is about the testing of the Article 371C, that is the special provisions which are there for the Manipur hills, and the breakdown of the Article 21, because over here, the right to life had been threatened along with the safe movement as well. This is also there is also the implication about the security, because there is cross-border arms smuggling that is happening from Myanmar. Also, there is weapon looting that the insurgent groups they had done and they are still doing, and there is urban and jungle guerrilla warfare tactics that these groups are they are following. All right, there is also complete trade paralysis. So again, this is impacting the economy of the state. There is inflation of the essential commodities and the goods, and ultimately the infrastructure has been damaged because of the clashes and because of the fight that is there. Also, when it comes to the social impact, so there had been destruction of the inter-community trust in the complete state, and there had been religious polarization, the trauma that had been inflicted on the women and the children as well. All right. At the same time, when it comes to geopolitical, there had been destabilization of India's border with Myanmar, and there is vulnerability to transnational the crime syndicates, especially in the region where Myanmar border it touches with the Manipur border. All right, now over here, there are the structural roadblocks that we are talking about. The first one is the trust deficit, that is, there is absolute breakdown of the communication between all ethnic leadership structures. There is no shared institutional forum that should have been there for building the trust between the communities. There is also proliferation of the arms, where there had been thousands of the unsophisticated and sophisticated automatic weapons which were looted from the state armories, or they had been smuggled across the border. That remains in the civilian hands, and again this poses a very important and pertinent challenge to the internal security in the region. There is also the dilemma of the SOO, that is the suspension of operations framework, and over here the dilemma is about abrogation as compared to the enforcement of the suspension of operation pacts, and this is a very important politically paralyzed debate that is there. And there is also the porous international border when it comes to the Myanmar, and ultimately it provides easy sanctuaries as well as supply lines for the armed groups. Alright, when it comes to the porous international border with the Myanmar, over here it is a very important to note that this porous border, it is very important because there is the illicit arm trading that happens, and even there is poppy cultivation and the drug trade that happens between this complete porous border. Again, this is very, very important to the complete region. Now, what could be the roadmap to the peace, or what could be the solution to the complete issue? The first thing is that there has to be revitalizing of the hill area committees which are there under Article 371C. We have to empower the track 3 of the diplomacy, that is faith-based platforms for the social healing. That is the first step that we should see. In the medium term, what we should see is that there should be neutral weapon recovery drive across all the states. Alright, everyone or every looted weapon that should be confiscated. We should accelerate the border fencing and strengthen the local police intelligence as well, so that the kind of the situation that we are seeing in Manipur, where there is abduction, where there is killings, that should not happen. No such kind of incidents that should happen in the near future. Also, another thing is that is very important, and that is about the human security. We should secure the National Highway 2 with the neutral central forces, the Assam Rifles as well as CAPFs, and we should completely rescue of all the remaining hostages which are there, and that is the immediate step that the government should take when it comes to the Manipur region. Now, when it comes to the Manipur, it is very important for India's Act East policy, and also when it comes to Manipur, it is the important aspect when it comes to integrated Northeast, because the Northeast is part of India and it is integral part of India that we must understand. So peace is just not about the absence of the conflict, but it is the ability to cope with it through the constitutional means, and that is very, very important. So that would be all in this video, but at the same time, if you are appearing and if you are preparing for the civil services for 2027, or if you are aiming for 2028, so we have the GS Foundation batch for the preparation, complete preparation, that is Resolution P2I batch, which you can join for 2027 as well as for 2028. And this complete batch, it is based upon the SMART model. That is where we are giving you the complete solution to your preparation, right from your prelims to your mains to your interview, will be there to guide you throughout the success. Alright, so you can join this batch, and again you can use the code that is BRS Live for the maximum discount that you will get on the platform. And this code is applicable on all the courses which are available. So whatever the course that you purchase, you can use the code BRS Live for gaining the maximum discount on the platform. So that would be all in this video, but at the same time, before leaving, do not forget to like the session. Do not forget to share the session with your friends who are preparing for the civil services, as well as do not forget to subscribe to our channel so that you do not miss any of the updates in the future. So that will be all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care and Jai Hind.